So for those of you who are on the call so far, we are discussing taking IT to new heights with AI. This is a long overdue topic. From my own perspective, I'm very keen to understand the tangible benefits for business. Moving away from just the buzzwords of AI, the concepts, the high-level discussion points like, it's not to undermine these topics, but there's a lot of time spent on the ethics of AI and, topics such as the political considerations of AI. And I think for us in the small business community, for those of us who are leading organizations, we just want to hear what are the tangible benefits that we can bring to bear for the organization. How can we use AI to make money? And then also, how can we use AI to streamline the business? And of course, bring about process improvements, particularly in the area of IT. And while we're talking about the overall tangible business benefits of AI, there is going to be a particular emphasis on IT on this particular call, this particular webinar. So on that note, this webinar is brought to us by Axis and Microsoft. And I think as I will use that as a segue to introduce our first panelist, Ayman. I know that I won't do justice to your tremendous background. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a second to enlighten all of us on a little bit more about you, your journey, and what is it that you do today.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure to kind of connect with everyone today to talk about AI and what can we do with it. So I've been at Microsoft for almost 18 years now, in my 19th year. I've started my journey in the engineering team, working on Windows and Windows Phone, rest in peace. And basically then I started working on the developer experience team, working with our developer communities. Now basically and worked also with our ISV, independent software vendors, who basically create software for for our customers there. Now basically I'm working as a partner technical strategist with our what we call solution services aggregators, kind of like Axis as well, to help in the transformation, specifically more on the AI transformation as well. So I'm really excited here to be part of this panel and to have the discussion with everyone here as well.
Excellent. And certainly big warm welcome to you. I'm not sure whether you are welcoming me or whether I should be welcoming you. Technically, as Microsoft, you are technically a sponsor and a host of this as well. So Ayman, on that note, you mentioned something quite funny. I'm not sure whether that joke would have landed with everyone, the rest in peace Windows Phone joke, because I'm not sure everyone necessarily knows the long story from back in the day, Some of us with the more gray hair, we know the story of Windows Phone for a long time now. So on that note, Microsoft has taken such a massive leap forward from the days of, the Windows Phone to, where it stands today as the forefront leader amongst all software vendors, really leading the charge into a new future built entirely on AI. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Microsoft's position and stance when it comes to AI, particularly with regards to smaller businesses?
Definitely makes sense. So I think for us, the AI journey for Microsoft, it's not something that happened overnight. If you look at the journey before, even from Microsoft Research, in terms of the investments that we had in AI, and even in terms of the evolution that we had across the board over the past 30 years, in terms of the investment that we had in AI. So I think it's more of the evolution of where we are right now in terms of how do we capitalize this with our cloud computing capabilities to make sure we really enable our businesses to really realize their full potential. So in terms of the AI journey, it's more of what accelerated things further is more of the need to basically to do more with less. So basically, how can I optimize things? How can I really do more things, and specifically more on the repetitive side, on the repetitive tasks that we have there. So with AI, it's not about really replacing. It's more of the basically being your hand in hand, helping out small businesses. So that's why it's Copilot. And I think that's where basically you will see Copilot everywhere. It's in terms of the AI basically helping you. It's basically you're the main driver, you're the main pilot. It's just basically someone with you as a co-pilot, navigate all of this and basically kind of taking care of all of those kind of repetitive tasks there as well. So you can see basically in terms of our from an AI, it's basically across the board, from We're basically coming at from the developer experience side to help you code faster, to security as well, where you can actually now using, we have some, I don't want to go into the products, but at least, or the solutions, but at least it will help you basically navigate what are the threats coming down to your organization into simply kind of just, hey, I want to do I want to do a kind of a contract instead of, trying to edit the template and trying to do, and then messing up the macros and then trying to figure all that out. Is basically AI kind of helping out in that as well. And I think the biggest leap is more on the generative AI side as well, where basically the story there is, it's not just simply, usually with AI, the AI story for everyone is basically we're using someone's data to learn from and then basically giving it back to you. Here, the idea is your data will always be your data. It'll not be shared. It's basically you can create your own AI story for your own organization based on your own data. And it basically adapts basically the specific kind of data policies that you have as well there in terms of what's confidential, what's not confidential, so on and so forth. So it's basically the AI story in a nutshell with Microsoft is AI in a more secure way that's actually more tailored towards you. That's kind of the, at least from a journey perspective, the evolution of Microsoft is we had the investment in AI. It's more of the how did we evolve it more into productivity and basically give it to our customers faster there as well.
Right. And I think you did a great job summarizing the high-level framework, the design principle that Microsoft is employing in taking us to this AI-led future. So as we go through the conversation, I want us to stay true to the reason why this is so critical for us right now. I think like any new major technology announcement, what happens is that there's a lot of maybe some confusion at the outset, like what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my future? What does it mean for my business? And then after that, it slowly gets into the next phase, and perhaps there's an element of questioning and inquiry, like people trying to solve that problem. What I'm finding in my own personal interactions with customers, I deal with a tremendous number of some smaller organizations speaking to their IT leadership. One of the things that seems to be coming up quite a lot is that many of them are sitting with the mandate to get AI into the business somehow. And busy leaders haven't always taken the time to understand what this thing called AI is. Well, what does it mean in practice? And so there's often an instruction to IT to go figure it out and to go figure out how you can bring AI into the organization. For me, I think we need to start at that foundational level in this discussion. You don't just bring AI into the organization. AI is more than just, you've mentioned it, generative AI. The impact is far greater in the actual workflow of the business than it is in the area of IT. So let's just start there, and let's just start spelling out some of the basic differences for the people who are on this call who have those kind of questions, like, should I just be instructing IT to figure this out? Should I be doing it? What's your guidance on that as a starting point?
So I think we usually have a white paper of to discuss it, the whole thing end to end, which is basically the 5 core pillars of AI readiness, right? So in terms of to figure out whether me as a business, does it make sense for me, and what are the things I can leverage there as well. So usually you need to start with the business strategy, right? So it's in terms of do we have a clear business objectives, and basically what are the use cases for the AI value. So it's not just simply okay, let me do AI just for the sake of AI. It's more of, does it make sense for me? Is there things that, business scenarios that can actually save me money with AI? That's kind of the first step, is basically as part of the core pillar of, from a business strategy perspective, you need to start from there. It's basically, does it make sense? And usually I think I have a term there as well, like especially because usually there's a thing for whether you build it or whether you consume it, right? So whether you do the whole thing end to end or whether you use it. So if it enables you, consume it. If it differentiates you, then build it. I think that's kind of the key thing that you want to start the discussion before you kind of give it to the IT and figure it out. It's more of the figuring out from a business perspective, does it make sense for me? And basically, if there are scenarios, do I want to consume it or do I want to build it from scratch, right? So first you start from the business strategy where you can figure out, okay, does it make sense for me? What are the scenarios that will actually I can leverage from an AI perspective that can help me accelerate things there? So after basically you do, figure out what's the business strategy, then you come down to the technology strategy. So basically then you can look at, okay, from a data platform perspective, do I have the right data footprint to basically feed this, right? Because you can have AI, but if you don't have the data, you're really crippled. Like it's not really doing much, right? Like it's not really, you can't really do much there as well. So it's more of basically figuring out, do you have the AI ready applications and data platform? Whether basically you have the right tools within the organizations to kind of help, basically be the basis where you can actually start from there as well. Then forward is basically the AI strategy. It's basically how do you set it up from a customer-centric approach to AI across the organization? How do you, set it up in a systematic way there, where then you take a look at your AI strategy and then you can define that strategy from there as well. And finally, it's basically more from an organization and culture. You have a clear operating model for AI on when to use AI and when not to use AI. Also, in terms of the transformation, do you want to do it top down or bottom up? And finally, is more on the governance side. It's basically the how do you govern the data privacy? How do you govern the security and the responsible use of AI? So I think from to start with AI, it's basically there's a lot of tools that you can do with it. It's more of figuring out the business or what's really the core business value and the business strategy. And then basically, it's basically the AI is supposed to enable that business strategy and to basically accelerate it. It's not supposed to replace it. It's more of we need to figure out that first, and then basically we can see what are the pieces that we can plug in that can actually help us out, where AI is basically transforming your business and basically helping you accelerate it further and optimizing it and having it more in a cost-efficient way, basically.
Excellent. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for taking us through that. I know it's quite a big answer, and I know that there's a lot underneath each of those points. So I made some notes as you were speaking, and we can unpack that as we go forward. I'm very happy to see that Vino has joined the call. Vino, we were starting to sweat there a little bit, my friend. We were starting to get worried that you weren't going to show up. But it's very important that you are part of this dialogue. You are an important representative of Access on this call. Let's have you unmute yourself for a second and then just give us a brief introduction, because I know that I will not do justice to your phenomenal background. So please go ahead.
Thanks, Gulshan. And apologies, I needed some AI to get onto this call. So very briefly, I've spent my early years in telco, mobile fixed ISP, and also on the data analytics and the strategy side of the tech environment. Focusing a lot on using data analytics, applying AI on data as well to deliver use cases to our clients for predictive and prescriptive analytics. We're very pleased to be on this call.
That's fantastic. Vino, I think you are downplaying some of your stature and some of your accomplishments, but I won't impose that too much on you. You're a very humble person. Do you want to just explain very quickly your affiliation to Access and how you will be representing Access today?
So I work with Access. We work a lot on terms of generating the specific value propositions and taking that to market on technology. We all know, like all tech, even AI as an example, people are not buying the technology; they're buying what the technology does for you. So building a narrative of technology with a purpose, enabling our partners, to deliver that narrative and articulate what value the application of technology has to the end user. And also, raising awareness with end users in terms of, there are technologies out there, how they can leverage those technologies to optimize, grow their business, redefine their value propositions to market, and just become a better organization and improve the customer experience.
Right, absolutely. So that's great, guys. Let's move on to my next question here. Just as a reminder to everyone, we're busily discussing how to use AI to take the business to new heights. In particular, we want to focus more on the tangible benefits brought to bear by AI. And we're talking about the business, but there's going to be a particular emphasis on IT in this particular conversation. The reason why we want to stick to the tangible benefits of AI, I think when you're dealing with more the small to medium business community, there's an urgency to see results quickly, and often small businesses don't have the luxury of long project life cycles where you can do a ton of piloting and a ton of testing. People really want to get into the action fast, and they want to be decisive, and they want to equally see results quickly. So on that note, both of you ironically mentioned use cases and the importance of establishing the use cases before you actually get into the implementation of AI. So I'm just going to throw this question out there. Whoever wants to pick it up, you can go ahead. In a smaller business environment, where, like I said, you don't have the luxury of a ton of sandboxing or piloting, a lot of playing around. How would you advise the establishment of correct use cases when people just don't have enough exposure right now?
Okay, I'll give you an example, right? I mean, even if you're a small business, right? All businesses have resources, and you want to optimize the use of those resources. So there's two things, Girish, I'd like to talk about it. The first is the application of AI to take to reduce the effort and time spent on menial tasks. And when you do that, you kind of free up time for the organization to focus on strategic stuff or the strategic objectives of the business. And that's always about, okay, innovation. How do we serve our customers better? How do we improve our customer experience? So here it takes away, effort that's spent on mundane tasks, and you can automate many things. I can give you a number of use cases, if you want, or I can explain, one or two of them. But just the application of, when you're sitting in meetings and, people rock up for meetings, and everybody is busy taking notes and stuff in a small organization, and you use AI, something like Copilot does this quite well, where, it takes your minutes, it takes your notes, it posts the meeting, produces a document. So people can actually, when in the meeting, focus on the meat of that meeting. Guys, what are the points to discuss? What are the problems we are looking for? How do we solve for those problems? And that's, in a very simple example, is a very simple use case, but a powerful use case in a small business. And then, when you start looking, if you apply that from an IT solution perspective as well. So small businesses might, rather than you don't want to reinvent the world, right? You want to take something that's common off the shelf, whether it's a CRM or whether it's, generating content and stuff like that for your organization. And what happens is that, the application of AI in that space, makes it much easier for your organization, to do that integration using low-code use cases, because AI tools like, there's AI for GitHub as an example that enables you to close the code and complete the integration quite quickly. And even generating content, we're all familiar with the type of content, that can be from graphic to graphs or whatever. But you start creating, content, even marketing content for your small business. And more importantly, a use case that I've been working a lot in organizations now is deeper analytics and segmentation of your customer base. And it's not just about defining the segments, it's finding those nuggets that will inform what new product announcements and what new propositions you need to develop to serve that market. And I'll just stop there as an example.
Okay, that's a fantastic example. And I think just under one example alone, we could unpack it so much, because that one use case could entirely turn a business around just in one area without even looking at, workflows across the organization, just looking at marketing alone, just being smarter about where the company deploys its efforts, that could transform an entire organization. So I love that use case. I want to give Ayman the opportunity to respond on that point as well before we move on.
No, so I think it's just adding to my advice, like for you're trying to rationalize AI is basically take a look at your businesses from either sales, marketing, whether you have some developer experiences, your data and AI kind of, it's basically looking at the functions in your organization and see which ones, you can actually optimize things, and which roles basically can actually help accelerate things further, or at least, let's say you have, you want to increase sales, right? So this is basically something that you need to do there. So it's basically providing them the tools to make their job faster, so you can do more with less. So let's say you need to increase sales, but you only have a limit of, like, let's say 2 resources. So every tool that they can have in their disposal can help them basically accelerate things further there. But I think, just in terms of before kind of defining the use cases, is look at your business from an overall perspective and see what are the areas that you really want to kind of, whether you invest to make it, you can do more with less, where let's say even if you have headcount, but you want to make sure with those 5 people that you want to get 20x in terms of sales, right? So it's basically you can provide kind of the tools there and I think as part of Microsoft, for example, on the sales use cases, you have the Copilot there, which is basically part of the sales, where it can organize all your emails. It can actually deduct everything from Outlook, kind of link everything together. And even from a customer relationship management, where you can actually manage everything in one place. So you can have the history of the customer, kind of create the orders. It's like you have the whole full experience there. And more importantly, I think what's changed with AI, it's the information is there. So before, you used to be able to get it, right? So it's not about creating new information. It's more of the way to get the information. So now, instead of actually knowing a very specific skill of, okay, let me filter on this, let me do X, Y, and Z. Now you can talk to the software like a person. Can you please find me, X amount of customers that had, didn't have sales in the last month. So you can get that information much easier, much faster. So in terms of training your sales team, it actually saved you some time to actually, for the sales team to learn new IT skills. Now they can actually talk to software like a person. So it's basically, hence a Copilot. It's a person that you can talk to. And I think this is kind of the disruption in the market there. Is basically, instead of learning new skills, you can actually just talk to a person and they can actually be able to give you that information there. So it's basically access to information much faster in a much more human way, basically. That's kind of the idea there. But I think just as a recommendation, just take a look at the business and which areas you have that teams you have the demand from to optimize cost and to basically for them to be more efficient. And I think that those are the areas that you can invest in. So as a Microsoft story, we can cover most of those scenarios. So we can develop from developer experience, marketing, service, data and AI, even like from a business, from a data analyst perspective. So we can cover all the scenarios. It's more about discussing which scenarios on which part of the businesses you want to invest in.
Right. So you mentioned a very important point about the element of maybe some level of concern or a feeling of risk within the teams about what AI is going to mean for their roles. So I know that this is a big topic, and I don't want to spend all the time on this one topic, but if we could touch on this topic relevantly, if there are people, say, on this call or even people outside who are feeling a degree of concern about admitting AI into their particular area, specifically in IT, let's focus on IT. If there's people in IT right now who are saying, if I focus too much on AI, what am I going to be left, doing? What is your immediate response to that? I mean, we can go either, guys. I know.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
Look, I think we had the same discussion with cloud computing, right? So I think it's the evolution. So it's not really replacement. It's more of the evolution of skills required. So I think we had the discussion when we, when the new kind of cloud computing came aboard, and everyone was like, oh, well, this is taking, jobs away from us, and it's basically, it's retransforming everything. And now IT departments are now, their main focus, okay, how do we actually transform to the cloud, right? Like, I think that was the main kind of driver there as well. I think with the cloud, basically what we've seen is basically the transformation was, to do more with less, basically to make me more productive. It's basically to make me more, instead of actually managing some physical labor and, and managing all of those things that I really didn't need to worry about. So, when you first started with the cloud, you had your own data center, you had to worry about ACs, ventilations, and some of the infrastructure there. It's like, okay, but my job, I'm in IT. Like, I know data. I know basically how to manage compute. Why am I worried? Like, why all of a sudden I need to become a mechanical engineer and an electrical engineer just to do, you know, certain tasks? So it's basically kind of, it saved a lot of hassle for basically the IT departments, where they need to worry about less things there, right? So that's kind of the transformation that we had from our IT kind of community, where they transformed their skills from that part into kind of more cloud computing part. Now I think we have the next generation of kind of you know, transformation, where it's more on the AI part, where, you know, I have a lot of things in the infrastructure side as well, where, you know, let's say I want to create this kind of I want to deploy this data platform there, where now I need to give it to my data analysts. So now they need to figure out how to kind of use these tools in order to kind of get the information that they need. Now, if I enable AI there, they can actually talk to it as a person. So at least it saves me some time from training the data analyst to kind of figure out how to get data there as well. And it's more of kind of democratizing the, you know, with Microsoft Fabric now, with the new Copilot features there, it basically makes it easier for it. You don't have to be a business analyst or business intelligence person to kind of get most of that information. You can get it there. You still need a business intelligence person to kind of get the overall business, but they don't have to be now bogged down and use, you know, in creating reports and creating all of this stuff for specific parts of the business, that they can get it on their own. So at least you made it easier for other folks to kind of consume this data, while you actually focusing more on your job there as well. And I think the list goes on from an IT perspective, like in terms of the, let's say I want to create my apps, right? So right now with, you know, Power Apps Copilot as well, you can actually tell it what's the app that you really need to create, and it will actually create it for you. So you don't have to you know, learn Power Apps, try to kind of drag and drop, see how does it connect with this data. You can actually get the ball rolling there. You still need to create it. You still need the person to kind of hit the publish button and to kind of create that part, but it just made it easier and faster for you to kind of consume this data as well. But the idea from an IT perspective, it is part of the evolution. It is basically a change in terms of the way that you want to kind of work with, but it definitely means your skills are now more valuable than ever, right? Because with AI, you need the data infrastructure. You need to basically have the right infrastructure there for AI to be able to consume. So from an IT perspective, it's definitely still required to kind of create the infrastructure required, so that then your other business users can utilize AI to make things faster for them and easier for them. But this way, you don't have to worry about the extra layer. You can just worry about more kind of providing the right infrastructure and the right tools, and basically you can have the business users without the extra training for them to kind of consume this data in the way that they need possible there.
Right. Vino?
Yeah, and Christian, you know, I just want to add to that as well. You know, for the one thing, the three key points, you know, we come across in organizations nowadays. You know, it's all underpinned by the digital transformation journey, right? The first one is IT modernization. So the whole shift, you know, to a mix of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, virtualized infrastructure, like Ayman talked about cloud, and managing those resources, you know, managing those assets can be quite complex. So as an IT person, you know, I would embrace IT, AI, the application of AI to actually manage these things quite efficiently for me, because, and that's where, you know, we always talk about, we always see a single pane of glass management, behind which sits an AI, behind which sits AI application. So, because as a human being, it's going to be really, I would even venture to say, impossible for one man to do it. So it frees up your time to do what is more important for the organization, which is strategic planning, strategic road mapping, and you know, and meeting those KPIs. The other term is the application modernization, and we're seeing a lot of the shift from, you know, those monolithic applications to very containerized type of applications, right? And even in that space, right? Just think up how many containers you're spinning up. You know, your developers are sitting with a CI/CD pipeline that they need to manage and get into it. You've got the infrastructure thing, and it becomes quite complex to do if you're doing it as an individual person. So what it does, it actually, you know, as an IT person, if I'm sitting here, I would embrace it because it makes my life much more easier and much more simpler to manage. It automates. And I have a view of, it's like driving. It's like, you're sitting there with a cockpit and watching all the dials while everything else is developing the trust and moving that airplane in the right direction. With those two things, IT infrastructure modernization and application modernization, comes security risks. And that's the third point I want to touch about. And that's where AI has really come to the forefront. I come from a telco background. We run MPLS, firewalls, back in the day, unified threat management, we know all that, right? But if you look today, businesses, small businesses, large businesses, they're running multi type of networks, using SD-WAN. So you've got all these different entry points. And AI is so smart in that it can monitor behavioral changes and predictively pick up security risks and mitigate those things, which as an IT person, takes the pressure off me. I can ensure network resiliency. I can ensure application uptime. I'm in control. I can meet my KPIs. So, as an IT person, in addition to your point, yeah, I think another thing I know that AI now complements me and enables me to focus on the strategic business objectives around IT and let the complex stuff that requires complex resources get taken care of by AI in an automated manner.
That's awesome, and I love the perspective from both sides. It's great how you drilled right into a very simple but powerful use case in terms of monitoring irregularities, spotting things before the human eye catches it, and the level of support and comfort and safety net that provides to a human workforce that is already feeling stretched, already covering way too many functions within the organization. So I think that this is excellent perspective. At this point, I have to do a bit of a plug. We are proud to announce Axis's first ever small business AI resource hub. It's an amazing resource hub that is designed specifically for small businesses with small business use cases, where we go through where we provide a ton of resource for any individual, whether you are on the technical side or whether you are on the business side. If you are part of that small to medium business community in South Africa, you're going to find a ton of value that is created especially for you. It is not generic content. It is not the kind of enterprise use cases that we are so accustomed to seeing that really only make sense for the big banks and the telcos, etc. So I would encourage you to dive right in there and make the best of the resources that were made available to you. Again, this center or this resource hub has been brought to us by Axis, something that we are very excited about, the first ever. You'll find the link to this resource hub in the chat. It's just been put into the chat. Please go have fun, put in your details, sign up as a subscriber so you'll get automatic alerts, and that way we'll bring the content to your inbox. You don't have to work hard for it. So now that we're done with that plug, let's continue this very valuable discussion. Ayman, earlier you mentioned the data footprint within the organization and ensuring that data footprint is almost AI ready, so that you can in fact extract the right value from within the organization. Please just talk to us about that from a practical standpoint. What do IT leaders need to do to make sure that this is right or done right?
Yeah, correct. So I think just part of it is it depends on the data that you have. So for example, if you have a lot of documents and you have a lot of things that you want to extract AI from them, this is where basically Microsoft 365 comes into play, where basically it's more of the how do I actually have it in the right kind of cloud where actually I can actually consume it, and I consume it in a much faster way where I don't have the connectivity issues in order to extract that data from. And more importantly, to have it in the right labels perspective as well. So the cool part with let's say take the scenario of, we have multiple areas where, AI, or at least our Copilot story is there. So for example, of productivity, which is in the Microsoft 365 story, which is now available to our business premium users, where basically they can actually get Copilot, which helps them across the board from a productivity perspective. So it can help them basically from, looking at sensitive, Word documents, emails, basically even Teams as well, where basically it can actually summarize some certain areas there as well. Now, in order to be ready for that, because you do have, it is a prompt kind of level of interactions, right? So if you talk to Copilot, it will answer you back. So there is an exchange of sensitive information there as well. Now, the cool part with Microsoft, with the Copilot that we have is, or at least our AI story is basically it's AI on your own terms. So the idea is basically make sure you have the right classification of the data that you have, where basically you can classify whether this is sensitive data, general data, so on and so forth. So Copilot will actually take that into account. So if you have any sensitive data in the prompt, it will not actually, it will give you a link, but it will make sure that you have the right sensitivity permissions there as well. So first, from data footprint is make sure you have the right classifications to your data, and you have the right tools to make sure you have the right security measures on your data footprint. So that is basically when you have AI there, it's basically it's consuming it in the right way and in the right security model that you have there as well. Now, also in terms of the auditability, you can audit basically what are the prompts actually coming up as well. So that's kind of the cool part with our AI story. So you can actually take a look at what are the prompts responses that happened for your kind of people in your organization. You can track basically what is the information that has been shared. So this way, as an IT administrator, you can actually look out at what are the conversations that happen if it's, if you enable it basically there, so that you can see if there's any sensitive data that have been shared or anything that's happened there as well. So you can actually take the right mitigation there as well. So I think from an IT perspective, make sure you have the right data strategy from a labeling, from kind of an audit perspective, from a data retention perspective, so that when you're using it with AI, it's basically using it in a much more kind of, is using it securely on your own terms. So that's kind of at least the preparation. At least I would give advice for basically anyone kind of, starting with kind of our AI story from a productivity perspective. So yeah, that's kind of the number one, at least top of mind to take care of, is basically make sure you have the right data security and data classification story beforehand.
Mm-hmm. What if someone's feeling backed off? Maybe Vino, I could direct this one at you. If someone's feeling a little bit like, again, a small business environment going through quite a few challenges, tough economic challenges, etc., and you're feeling a little bit backed off, like, oh, I don't have necessarily the correct data footprint in place. My data labeling isn't where it should be. Things are a little bit all over the show, and I'm even running some legacy systems because I just never had the wherewithal to level it up to the current times. What is your guidance in that scenario to such a small business that's considering looking at leveraging AI, but feeling hindered by the state of data?
So I think, Christian, for me, it's a prioritization issue, right? So you're going to have to, any business, prioritize what's most important to you. So, for example, if you are going to, if customer service you're failing miserably at that, and if that's then you're going to prioritize that, right? And then why do I say that? Because whatever you prioritize to solve, look at the data that's going to be used to solve that priority problem or use case that you need, and then follow it that way. Because I mean, we've worked with clients, and you just can't go and build big data warehouses, customer data pipelines all over the place, right? Understand what's most important, and then prioritize accordingly. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is when you even within you and even within your organization, right? I mean, these CDPs and stuff are common off-the-shelf stuff, right? Yeah, once again, if you can apply to do the integration as well. But even within your organization, say customer service is an issue, right? I mean, what we did, one of the use cases we had is we deployed a chatbot backed by an AI, into the client. And what you find over and above, servicing the requests, analyzing the prompts that come from the customer, it enables you to focus on what's the burning platforms in your business. Previously, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know because as a small business, I'm not going to run a whole call center and stuff, right? But now that you automate this, you use an AI, you run a chatbot, you start seeing from the customer queries or the prompts that come through, what's of most importance to your customer, what's really hurting your customers, or which areas, even within your organization, like Mint, if you've got an IT department, what are the constant, if you cluster them, what are the common high elevated type of issues coming through? And then you able to say, okay, is this a training issue for my organization? And in fact, which departments need to be trained? So Kirishan, to answer your question, I would say prioritization, and then align your data plan against what you prioritize to solve. And the second thing is then, when you do deploy AI, as look at the prompts that do come through, and use that to also derive learning in terms of how you can improve your customer experience, or how you can improve your employee experience as well.
Right. Okay, so folks, at this point, what I want to do very quickly, I know that we are hearing quite a lot. There's quite a lot of frameworks being talked about. There's some big points about all the way from security to app modernization to just seeing patterns in terms of network performance and all what's going on. And now we're talking about chatbots, and we're talking about the types of queries coming through. So there's quite a lot going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of you would like some level of one-to-one interaction after this call, so that you can refine some of these questions or scenarios in line with your specific situation or circumstance. We'd be happy to follow up this webinar with a little bit of one-to-one interaction, so that you feel that your questions are getting answered in a very one-to-one manner. So we've just launched a poll. If you wouldn't mind just diving right into the poll right now and letting us know whether you would like to receive a call from an Axis consultant on how to integrate AI into your organization. Remember, we're giving the broader framework, but what's going to happen is, if you select yes on this, you will receive a no obligation advisory call, where you can get a little bit more of that help and assistance at the level of your organization. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a second and answering that poll, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay, folks, so I see that we have about 14 responses. It's just a quick radio button that you have to make a selection on your screen. If you wouldn't mind just taking a second to fill that in, and then we'll pick it up from there. There's a lot more juicy stuff coming up. We're going to talk about a lot more of the net benefit that AI is going to bring to some of those specific areas, like app modernization, and we're going to also jump into the security point in just a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind just filling that in very quickly. I'm just going to get the number from my colleague in a second, and if we're looking good, we're just going to fly. Okay, we're sitting at 23 responses so far, so I'm sure there's just a few more that we can get before we move on. Let's try to get that number up to 30. How are we doing? Okay, we're almost there. So I'm going to track this as we go. So let's keep the discussion flowing. Let's dive into this topic of app modernization. Just as a high level, and then driving deeper into perhaps maybe a bit of a use case, if that's at all possible. So let's start with Ayman on this one. Maybe if you could just give us some thinking around how AI can be useful around the subject of app modernization.
No, definitely. So I think from an app, so looking at the whole development lifecycle, right? So from writing the code to deploying the code, and basically kind of creating the use cases that you require there. So if you're writing, so we do have the tools which are basically the plug and play, kind of like with Power Apps. If you are a small organization, you want to create like an internal tool that you want to have for your own team, definitely Power Apps is there, and you have basically the capabilities of Copilot there to help you basically accelerate creating that app while consuming the data that you have in your organization. And regardless whether it's actually connected, on-prem, on the cloud, it's basically kind of help you basically create that app faster. So we do have like from a what we call as the serverless option, or basically kind of the no-code kind of option, where you can actually create your apps there much faster there as well. So that's basically coming back to the first thing that I've referenced to, is basically if it enables you, consume it. And if it basically differentiates you, then build it, right? So the idea here, basically, if it enables you, and it's not really your business to create this app, and you just want to create this app, let's say for your partners to log in a few things, or to do certain tasks, part of your workflow, then we do have like the Power Apps Copilot there, where you can actually interact with it through prompts, where you ask it, okay, I want to create an app to do X, Y, and Z, and basically you reference the certain databases that you want to connect with, and it will actually create the kind of the template for you, so that it actually makes things faster for you to create, get the ball up and running there as well. Plus, basically, you can also include the AI services there, where you can, let's say you want to do some, something to create the expense reports for you, right? So you want to create this app for you, so you can give it a few models there to train it, and then basically, based on that model, basically someone can just upload the document and it will create the expense report for them, and basically also submit it throughout the whole workflow as well there. So this is what we call as a citizenship developer scenario, where it can help you basically move throughout across the board, where the business users can actually create those. So it basically saves some time for the IT team, where basically the IT team can provide the Power Apps and basically the infrastructure for that, where they can actually utilize it. And then basically the business users can create their own apps. So this way the IT team doesn't have to spend a lot of cycles creating a very custom app for a very specific business user. That business user can create it on their own. Now, the other part is basically if you're actually, go ahead.
No, go. I was just acknowledging you.
Yeah. All right, cool. So then the idea behind it is, if I want to develop my own app, right, there's something that differentiates me. But, even with coding, there's a lot of menial tasks there that I really don't want to do, right? Like I want to create some classes. I want to create some specific kind of data models and basically this abstraction layer. So this is where kind of GitHub Copilot kind of comes in there, where you basically can write in terms of like, it's similar to the prompt engineering, where you basically give it a prompt of saying, okay, I want to create, a class that has basically can represent a person or a bank account or some certain kind of code there. It will actually automatically write up that code for you there, where you don't actually have to, even user error, where, crap, I forgot this, function, or forgot this API call. It can actually create that for you, all up and running there as well. Plus, in terms of, we can definitely integrate it with GitHub code spaces, where you also have the dev machine ready. So it can get you up and running, basically, where with a few steps, you can create the whole site up and running there as well. And finally, even if you want to create your own Copilot, right? So we have the Copilot Studio as well, where you can actually create your own Copilot that does, that helps the other people in your organizations do certain things as well. So we do have that capability, as well as the capability of AI Studio, where if you want to create your own AI solutions, or AI, you have a specific AI scenario that you want to take care of, you have that part there as well. But from an app modernization perspective, the cool part is you have the things that will help you do the apps that you don't want to worry about, so that basically it can actually accelerate, it helps you focus on the things that really differentiate you. So I think that's kind of from an app modernization side, from the developer story itself, whether you want to consume and create that app quickly, or you want to create the app from scratch, we have the tools to help you basically create that. AI can help you definitely there, accelerate things there further. Now, keep in mind, you're still the owner of the app. You still need to, basically you are the pilot. You are steering, the plane in the right direction. But here, basically, what AI is doing is just simply helping you basically do the tasks that you really don't want to do, so that you focus on the direction and you focus on the vision of it. But that's basically it.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Very good breakdown there. And one of the things that I specifically want to call out is that I see a lot of small businesses thinking that an app is a big deal. An app could be as simple as automating a workflow, a single workflow within the organization. An expense claim is a great example. A vacation request is another example. So it's not necessarily the one big app for your organization. It could just be making a neat, clean little widget that makes a particular workflow very easy within the organization. And let's be honest, this function, this ability was really the domain of the big company a few years ago. You know, big companies, the big enterprises, they were able to roll out all of these cool little widgets that were relevant to all these various workflows within the organization. And small businesses did everything manually. They did everything on Excel. And I think for the first time, small businesses are really given the same toolkit that an enterprise has, and by the way, on the same terms. So a very exciting time. I don't want to rant too long. I want to cover security a little bit more. Can I invite all of you to put your questions into the chat box if you have any? I would like to take 1 or 2 questions before we start to wrap here. So please go ahead and place your questions into the chat box. And the other thing that I'm just going to ask you guys to do, if you haven't done it so far, is please respond to the poll that you would now find in the chat box itself. Go ahead, put your questions there if you'd like, and also just respond to the poll. That'll be great. Vino, if we could just go to you on this one. Let's talk security a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of worry. You know, the spate of attacks on organizations, specifically small businesses, have been consistently on the rise, and we're really feeling the heat. I mean, just the sheer volume of phishing attacks that we are seeing, the cleverness, the ingenuity that's coming through, and small businesses don't necessarily have the resources to manage that as proficiently as some of the larger organizations do. How can AI act as an additional barrier of defense?
Gulshan, you know, it's one of the, for me, it's one of those areas where I think AI can bring the greatest value. You know, organizations, like you mentioned, even smaller businesses are adopting more and more technology, and whether it's on the networks access side through broadband connections, whether it's on IoT devices or more business applications. And each of these things increase your risk exponentially to cybersecurity risks, right? And, you know, AI, you know, back in the day, I still remember the days of firewalls. I mean, we still have firewalls now, but, you know, I would call it security as very endpoint orientated. Now, you know, you got to have a total, you know, extended, what we refer to as extended detection and response posture on security. Because there's so many things to monitor as well, and that's where AI comes to the forefront, right? From a threat detection perspective, because AI and machine learning can be used to detect and respond to cybersecurity risks much more quickly and deeply in real time than we could. You know, because it builds up patterns of traffic. It analyzes network traffic. It can look at user behavior and system logs, you know, as an example, to check if there's any something that doesn't fit in. Is there an anomaly in the way the network is functioning, or the applications are functioning as well? And that's, you know, the way AI. When we talked about analytics, and one of the things we talk about is behavioral analysis. And we can look at the network is behaving, our applications are behaving, to see if there's, you know, and these algorithms can dictate predictably whether we're seeing an impending security threat. AI is also great at, you know, scanning for vulnerability. Remember, your networks are so layered now, and you've got so many applications in your business, you know, in some sitting on-prem, some sitting in cloud. So AI, you know, those algorithms are able to continuously scan vulnerability in real time, you know, rather than schedule security threats and deploy dispatches automatically. And that applies to phishing detection as well, right? Because it's scanning for those things as well. Yeah. Malware detection, you know, that we may not be aware of, you know, malware is coming into the business, but, you know, AI is continuously looking at the list of malware deployments that's being updated continually, and then looking at the behaviors that indicate that this malware is in place, and then blocking it up and isolating it in the organization. You know, one of the things we do always talk about from a security perspective, Gulshan, now is around we call it zero trust networks. You know, that's where we look at, you know, identity access management at each point of the network, And, as a human being, it's difficult or almost, well, forget impossible to do that. And that's why, AI has made that possible, where you kind of build a security shield around each, call it, node of your network, each device of your network, each application entry point of the network. So you're continuously looking at, okay, who's on the whitelist, who's on the blacklist, who can access this entry point. And to a large extent, it has led to the automation of security, the automation of risk assessment, and made it much more robust and resilient for organizations. And just to close off, now imagine if you're a small business, and to due respect, I mean, antiviruses and all, that you guys know the plans, right? But the antiviruses had their place back in the day. But just because of the sheer amount of I would call it transformation that's happened in organizations in this digital world that we function in, we had to adopt these applications, all these connectivity layers. And we had to move beyond them, and AI has come to the rescue to ensure that we have resilient and robust security defenses at our disposal.
Right. Very comprehensive answer there. I think you've given us a lot of clarity, and I think for me, I feel very hopeful about that, particularly because I see the siege that small businesses are under right now. We did get one question from Farai. I'm going to say it wrong. Please forgive me. I'm not familiar with this name. You're asking about some kind of website or AI that you can use to generate code for either a widget or a workflow user interface. I think that's a big question. In my opinion, I think that's a big question because there's quite a lot of stuff to be worked out there. Are you looking for the code? Are you looking for the eventual app? Are you looking for a quick way of creating an app that, maybe there's a problem right now that you want to solve? My suggestion is that you answer yes to the poll question, and then we will go ahead and have someone contact you so they can help you more directly with that question and understand all the details in your specific circumstance. So I would strongly suggest that you do that. The second thing is, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned earlier, AI for smallbusiness.co.za. That is the new resource hub launched by Axis, specifically designed for small businesses in South Africa. A great resource. Please take advantage of this. If you have a question, if there's content that you want to see at that site, please go ahead and request it, and we will make sure that we publish as much valuable information as possible. I think at this point we have gotten to time here. We just passed the 4 p.m. mark. I just want to do one quick closing question with both of our esteemed panelists, and maybe we will close off at this, after this question. I think both of you mentioned very important statements of purpose. The one was, offering tech with a purpose, and the other one was AI on your terms. So if I could ask you folks, each of you, to just deliver a parting shot where you convey your message to our audience today about how you intend to bring that statement of purpose that you've communicated to life via the AI value proposition for small business. So just a closing statement from you, Ayman.
Yeah, so I think as a small business, with AI, the level, the playing field is now basically kind of, we level the playing field with the big companies and the big enterprises, because now you have access to all of these tools. Now, the more important part is AI is definitely something, it is AI on your own terms. And I think that's part of the Microsoft kind of legacy, even from, with our experience in the enterprise. And it's basically taking this and evangelizing it to everyone, and to making sure that you are the owner of, you implement AI with the safety and precautions for your organizations, where your data is your data, even though it's actually using AI on the cloud as well. But the idea here basically is definitely investigate, take a look at your business strategy, take a look at it from a business perspective on where are the areas that you want to kind of accelerate further, and basically the areas that you want to optimize more. And then basically take a look at our, the resources that we have, even for the AI for small business kind of website from Axis, and basically take a look at where are the areas that I can actually leverage to AI that I can actually leverage there as well. and part of the Microsoft story. Because if you are part of that Microsoft story, we do have a lot of things across the board that can help you basically save money and accelerate things there further from even from a revenue perspective. Like it's not just simply from a cost-cutting perspective. It's more of the how can I do things faster, more intelligently, and more efficiently. So that basically I'm in the market and I'm actually gaining, I have an advantage over my competition as well. So that's basically my closing statement. Is just basically take a look, do AI on your own terms, and basically leverage the tools that we have available for you.
Thank you, Ayman. Thank you for that. Vino, your closing statement, please.
I think I'll stick with AI with a purpose, and that starts with understanding your business. And everyone, I mean, we all run our businesses, and we trying to achieve something, right? We have strategic objectives that we want to achieve. Do we want to improve our reach to market? Do we want to deliver more compelling value propositions? Are we leveraging digital technologies enough? Are we not doing it because there are risks, and we don't know how to plug those risks? Do we want to evolve our product and service portfolio? Do we want to open up more digital channels? Do we need place a lot of more emphasis on a learning organization? I don't know what the answers are for you. I just laid out some of those objectives that's going to make you a successful business. And when you understand that, then look at what the constraints are and what the risks are, right? And then look at how you apply AI to solve your constraint problem, AI to mitigate the risk, AI to increase. Do you have a capacity and capability issue? Where does AI fit in? How do you apply AI to compensate and lift your capacity and capability? And then how do you use AI to make you more competitive? We talked about just now. I talked about leveling the field, but can you leverage AI to give you a competitive advantage? And I think if you look long and hard enough, it can.
Yeah.
It just depends the business that you're in, the market that you operate, what's the competitive nature of that market that you operate in, and what does your business 2.0, 3.0 is going to look like, and how soon can you pivot to your operating model 2.0, 3.0, and how AI enables you to move that pivot quite quickly.
Yeah, excellent. And folks, I can't emphasize re-emphasize those points enough, particularly the aspect of you've got to see this as your business 2.0. You can't not. You have to see your business in two parts, your pre-AI business and your post-AI business. There is no other way to look at this. AI is gonna be the step change that you must create in your own business. And if you do not intentionally create that AI with your own AI strategy, and by you going and figuring out how you're going to introduce AI into the business, the step change is going to happen to you. And there's just no way around that. It's just one or the other. On that note, I hope all of you thoroughly enjoyed the session. Thank you to our panelists. You guys have been a wealth of knowledge, both of you. I've learned so much in the short time. I encourage everyone to answer the poll if you have not yet already. Please go check out aiforsmallbusiness.co.za. Fantastic initiative brought to us by Axis. Thank you all for attending. I think it's been a great session. Apologies, this is my phone going off. Apologies for that. I think I had a call scheduled just after 4. So on that note, folks, thank you so much for attending, and we will be in touch with the next session. See you soon.